How many times have you actually chosen your next career move, or have you just been reacting? And if that question makes you pause, then this episode is definitely for you. Hey guys, welcome back to Her Career, Her Way. My name is Hazel Ann, and this podcast is for ambitious individuals who are navigating their careers in their 20s, which can definitely be chaotic. And we're here to give the strategies, tools, and have honest conversations to support you. So I know a lot of you guys are drowning in applications. Probably a lot of interviews are going on, refreshing your inbox, replaying interview questions that have been going on, researching all of those things, and just adjusting your resume again and again. And this feels like something productive because you're constantly doing something. However, you're probably super exhausted, scattered, your mind is just kind of dying, and you're waiting for somebody to actually decide your next move instead of being in the position and holding that steering wheel. And so most 20 somethings, and I've definitely been guilty of this myself, are just stuck in this response mode. And honestly, a lot of our culture and society is as well. I was talking to a friend recently about just the train system. How often or not are new systems created like transportation and things like that in response to an event that has caused it? For example, like the airport system, security wasn't implemented until after 9/11 happened. And so if you just think about that, when is the next system, when is the next upgrade to the train system going to be streamlined? If not, an event wouldn't take place. And I think this is definitely present in our society and culture as well, is that we are constantly responding to events instead of proactively instigating them to be more effective and things like that. And so to relate this back to careers is that careers normally don't stall because of a lack of effort, but they stall because of a lack of agency. And proactive careers don't reward the most talented, they reward the most intentional. And so what this episode is going to talk all about is the power of proactivity and how when you are proactive, you are able to take control back and make those decisions in an environment that is chaotic, which we are all in. I also feel like proactivity helps you regain some confidence and it really instills a sense of self into you. So first I wanted to talk about what even is the difference between reactive and proactive. Reactive looks like responding to your environment, and this can be waiting for permission and then scrambling when it arrives. I know that has happened to me definitely. It also comes in a form of chasing outcomes where then you feel powerless because when you chase and when you have that desperation, you really do not attract that energy because you are just so desperate for anything. It also leads you to maybe go out of alignment because you're just trying to search for everything instead of one thing that actually matters to you. And this can also look like future tripping when you're missing what's in front of you because you can't be in the present. And then it also can come in a form of people pleasing, hoping that somebody notices you. And this leads into what is proactivity. It is taking ownership and agency of the situation for you to cause the effect. So this looks like clarity over permission. You know what you want, you ask for it. Systems over goals. You control the inputs, not the outcomes. Presence over planning. You build the skills now, not later. And self-respect over silence. You communicate your needs. You don't wait to be seen. Also, a research study by Krant in 2000 showed that proactive behavior actually predicts faster advancement in the career force. It also leads to higher success and more leadership opportunities. And also, it was shown being proactive is 40% in your genes. However, it is also 60% environmental. And so this shows that you can build proactivity as a skill and you can be in the seat of control. So it's not really about being the loudest in the room, which I think is a very big misconception about what leadership is, but it's about being reflective, discerning, and strategic. So how do you actually practice this and how can you actually build this really significant imperative skill for your career without feeling like you just need to do more and more? I also feel like it's so easy to look at having cause and effect and like what you do now is what will achieve or Z or whatever. But really, it's about you being the causer and the effect just being that byproduct from it. So I hope that makes sense. But now let's go into the 3 shifts to become proactive. This is the framework that we're going to do. So C is clarify. What do I actually need? What do I want here? A is assess control. What is actually in my internal control and what is the external control? Things that I can't do. Is respond intentionally. What is the one input that I can choose? What can I do? What actions can I take? And E is embody. Who do I want to be while I'm doing this? And so proactivity lives at the intersection of what you do and who you are becoming. So let's get into these shifts. Shift number 1 is moving from silence to clarity. So the reactive trap is when you're not asking for feedback. You're hoping somebody just notices you. You just are standing still and like, why aren't they doing anything? I'm doing all this work, but you're not actually taking the action to get that feedback and advice and to be seen. You're waiting for somebody else. Like when you start applying without intention, you're just constantly going on LinkedIn, filling out these job applications without actually thinking what you actually want. And I thought this was really pivotal in one of my interviews when they asked me, what am I looking for in my career? What are my aspirations? And I thought that was just so powerful because how many times or not do you think that these jobs are just, they're trying to get you, like you are trying to get the job. You are trying to advocate for yourself. You are trying to be seen, be heard, and be listened to and be accepted. However, you also have to realize that you are an investment for them. You have so much significant value inherently in yourself, and that you are also interviewing them during this process. Because if you don't fit, honestly, that can be a reason for you not getting the job, and that's a blessing. Aren't going to do your best in that cultural environment because it doesn't align with your values and what you want in life. And so just think about that when you're applying, is that you hold significant value for a company. And that if they don't choose to see that, and if they don't choose you, it doesn't always have to be from you as a person. It can just be because you're not a good fit for them. And the company at the same time maybe wasn't a good fit for you. So I hope that helps. And I think I can give a really good example of this in just the arts industry and how you never know what a casting director is really thinking. They could have somebody in their mind already when they're casting, somebody with a certain look, somebody with a certain haircut, somebody who talks a certain way, somebody who is tall, somebody who is short. You never know what they're thinking. And just because you don't fit that mold doesn't mean that you don't have the credentials, doesn't mean that you're not valuable. It just means that you weren't right for that position, but you could be right for a different position. And so not really basing it so much on who you are and seeing it as like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing wrong? But just seeing it as maybe it just wasn't a good fit. And so I think this ties into a research study by Bandura in 1997, and where they realized that low confidence and uncertainty leads to you waiting for permission. It leads to that low self belief that you can't do this, that you are not enough for someone. However, you are enough. You just have to realize that that self doubt is the antithesis of confidence. And by increasing that sense of self and who you are and what values you hold and how much you can bring to a company, to an environment, to your friendships, relationships, whatever it is, that really increases your confidence levels. It helps you become more active and also take those intentional actions for yourself and not waiting for other people to do it. So I just went on a rant, but basically applying this CARE framework is, what do you need? Are you looking for feedback, scope, or exposure? What do you want? And then assess, what can you control? I can control my communication, but not their reaction. Respond. Well, ask clearly. Follow up with them. Ask, am I doing something right? What else could I be doing in this moment? And then embody that self-respect and grounded and directness. Embody that self-belief that you are worthy. And so being assertive and having this communication to ask for feedback and really step up, it isn't about being confrontational. It's about clarity. And I know as somebody who is kind of a people pleaser that sometimes asking for what you need is really scary and it's daunting and it feels like, oh my gosh, like who am I to say what I need? But really, if you don't give people the chance to hear what you need, how are they going to know? They're not mind readers. We are not mind readers. We all also have a different perception of a situation. And so I think really being clear on what you need is actually taking back permission to value yourself. And also, if you don't advocate for this, who will? People are so busy with their own lives. And honestly, a lot of us at the heart are thinking about ourselves most of the time. And so you need to be the one to step up and advocate for yourself and ask for what you need. And so be the person who asks the question, somebody who also trusts themselves enough to ask and have that self respect. Shift number 2 is moving from outcomes to inputs. And so, where this reactive trap comes in is obsessing over the outcomes, the results, using the goals as proof of worth and feeling powerless if you don't achieve that goal. And I really think that's what goals are, is that it is, you kind of have this either or mentality, this win or lose if you don't achieve the goals. And that's why it's so important to focus on the systems. And also, Rotter from 1966 said that proactive people act before they are ready. And also, Spence in 1973 said that managers normally assess clarity and intentionality. That's what they prioritize and value. And just remember that being ready isn't a feeling, it's a choice. And it's yours to make. You have to make the decision to step up and start. And James Clear also talks about goals and systems and how achieving a goal only really changes your life for a moment. But having systems and building those systems helps you continue playing the game in the long run. It also makes you see the wins in the efforts. That comes with time because a lot of the times you are trying to bridge the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. And that dissatisfaction sometimes is the driver for you to achieve these things. However, in the long term, you have to be able to see the wins in the efforts, to see the beauty in building instead of just achieving that thing. Because what happens when you don't achieve that thing? That could be to just external circumstances that you can't control. Something comes up and it's delayed. Or maybe you're feeling off one day and you can't go to the gym as long as you wanted to. But being okay with going for 5 minutes, being okay with being adaptable in these goals and these systems, I think is also really important because who knows what will come up. And also realizing that when you fix the inputs, the outputs are the byproduct. They will fix themselves once you take the effort to actually do the work. And so applying the CARE framework again is clarify, what result am I chasing? What are you looking for? Are you looking for a job that will make you a lot of money? Are you looking for a job that will fulfill your passion for something? Are you looking for a job that will have some sort of social impact? Like, what are you valuing? And that goes back to my personal branding on really identifying what your values are. And something that I've realized is that I am super passionate. And I honestly think this is just inherent in my family. A lot of us have followed our passions for our careers. And I think that is just, I think it's great, but that's what we do. It doesn't mean that other people have different reasons and values for achieving something that they want. And it is totally okay because everybody has a different definition of what success is. And you have to realize that and be so concrete in what yours is because that is important for your career, for your drive, for your goals. So, and your systems, as I just was talking about. And then assess what outcomes aren't in your control and then what inputs are. So for the outputs are, I can't control somebody's going to hire me. I can't control if my visa is going to be rejected. I can't control how people are going to perceive me all the time. But what is in my control is networking. Who can I reach out to on LinkedIn to talk about more of this industry and this goal? As good as it is to find things that are financially beneficial, sometimes it's important to take on the things that aren't. So I participated in a research study for what's in my country and where are garments produced at origin. So looking at where the materials are actually sourced from, looking from where are my clothes actually made to where they say they're made, or are they not even stated? And this was totally a free thing that I did, but it opened up my network so much. So we actually created a group chat, and now I have access to other people in the industry that I'm interested in to just talk to, just share the experiences, to share articles, to just see what is open. And honestly, a lot of industries are smaller than you think, and people know each other that you wouldn't even think of. Like the world is actually smaller. And so being able to have access to this network and show that you are willing to do the work without the financial benefits or whatever it is shows that this is something that I really want. This is something that I dedicate my time to because it's something that I value. And so just understanding that that is in your control to build your network, to build those relationships and to see where that can lead you, but not look for the results all the time, but just be so appreciative and grateful for the network that you're building. Because yes, outcomes and things can come out of it, but also just having community that are so supportive and also believe in what you believe, I think can just inspire you even more. So that's an input that's in my control. And then responding is to build that simple system. So who else can I reach out to for 1 to 2 weeks? Or what articles can I look at 1 to 2 weeks to stay on top of the trends in the industry and things like that? And so that is system building rather than constantly looking for the results. And I'm not saying that having goals and having achievements that you want to have isn't important. I think they are, and they're definitely important in the long term. But what are those kinds of things that you consistently do? What are those things that you can show up for and take action on every single day? And I think that's important as well. So having a balance and a blend of both. And then embody being that consistent person, being strategic and being calm in the process. I think that's really important to have that calmness because as I talked about in the letting go episode, is that you need that calm to gain that clarity. And so some of the weekly practices that you can do is do intentional applications or having those intentional conversations, as I said. And then in the longer term, monthly maybe, what is one skill that you can build? Or what is an interview practice that you can take? What are some questions that are common in interviews that you can start reflecting on and answering? And so opportunities also really respond to clarity, not desperation. That chasing energy that I was talking about, that is really just anxiety. You're rarely coming from a place of intentionality when you are chasing. It also shows that you're willing to do anything to make something happen. It also, I don't know, a little bit of, to me, a low sense of self and who you are because you are just trying to get something. You're trying to make something happen that isn't organic. And so I think that's kind of why chasing doesn't work. Before I move on to the final shift, I just wanted to talk about how you need to demonstrate why somebody would want you. Because I think more or not, we kind of ask to be promoted, or we ask to be hired, or we ask to be seen and things like that. However, what are you actually doing to highlight that you are the person for that role? You deserve to be promoted. You deserve to be seen. How are you actually embodying that? How are you presenting yourself to be that? So I think to help phrase that and showcase that you are the right person, you need to take the steps to do that. You need to take on the skills, be curious, take on that learning opportunity, do more than is expected sometimes. Show that you are willing to do the grunt work that maybe other people aren't. And also find ways to be promotable, find ways to be hireable, find ways to be that person that somebody would want. Put yourself in the hirer's shoes and see what would they want in a candidate. I think honestly that is one of the best questions to ask in an interview, and I'll get into like for interviews definitely. What is an ideal candidate look like to you? Because then you can see what the culture values, what the company values, and also how are your relevant experiences and how do you fit into that role in a way. And that is how you can be proactive and take the steps to become that person that you want to be. And now moving lastly on to the third shift, which is from future to present. And I think the reactive state in this is that you are living in anticipation instead of participation. So you're trying to anticipate future events instead of really being present and seeing what opportunities are here for you right now. And it was shown in a study that mind actually reduces satisfaction. And also, when you are task switching, it reduces your happiness because it creates that cognitive debt. And when you are constantly task switching, you're actually using up a lot of energy and error rates can spike. And so I think this comes in alignment with being reactive because you're trying to anticipate these things, you're trying to act on it, but you're reacting on the environment rather than seeing what's out there and proactively taking action before the environment stimulus happens. And so also in a Buddhism, they talk about suffering comes from clinging to the things that we can't control. And I wanted to tie in a little bit of neuroscience because I really love these things. As you know, it wouldn't be her career her way without a little bit of neuroscience, psychology, whatever. It was discovered in a study that brains perk up with unfamiliarity and it creates richer memories. Time feels more full when you are brought into experiences that aren't familiar to you. Novelty increases that engagement in learning because the brain hasn't seen these things before. And so you are able to appreciate these things. And I think this is really true in adult life where I feel like as a child, you are constantly exposed to new things and you're so curious and you're just so wide eyed and bushy tail on seeing like what's going to happen. But in your adult life, your routines feel so stagnant and you can also feel stuck because you're just doing the same routine over and over again and life becomes mundane. And I'm not saying that routines are bad. I think they do bring a sense of comfort and consistency and a little bit of control aspect towards you and feeling a sense of just calm with those routines because you know what's happening. And I definitely am someone that loves routines. I think also establishing them helps you become a little bit more disciplined because you're constantly doing the same thing every single time. However, there is a little bit of stagnancy and feeling that you're not moving forward because you're just doing the same thing over and over again. And maybe it can make you feel a little bit boring. And I've definitely felt like this, especially in times of transition. Like right now when my modules haven't started up yet, or you're in the waiting period during the holiday season or right after exam season and you're just like, oh, what to do now? You can kind of feel stuck. And I've definitely felt that. And so what I try doing sometimes is switching up my routine. And this doesn't have to look like removing something or adding in something new. This can be as little as just changing the time of something. So what I've done is I changed up the time of when I worked out. Normally, I work out right when I wake up. I go to the gym, I get it in, and then I come home, eat my breakfast, do whatever I need to do for the day. But instead of doing this, I've actually shifted my workout to be in the afternoon and take that morning to really just ground myself, do a little bit of journaling, do my work. Honestly, I'm most creative in the morning, which is why I film these videos normally in the morning because my brain is turned on the most. I'm feeling a little bit more alive, whatever. By just doing that little switch of switching my workout to the afternoon shows what the value of working out is for me. Shows how when I work out, I feel energized and I feel motivated. And I also really like the process of just working out and that practice of it as well. It also teaches me that I am a disciplined person, that just because I don't do it in the morning doesn't mean that I won't get it in the afternoon. And it also, I think, helps me appreciate what exercise is. And it's not a time bound thing. And that shows that I truly value exercise. And so just doing those little switch ups, I think can really just bring even a little bit of novelty into your life and just show you how the activities and the actions that you're doing are helpful to you. I think it also shows you that it's not circumstantial and it's not based on your environmental cues and things like that. Because if you are switching things up and you can't commit to them, I think that shows how much value and how much that action was dependent on your environmental cues or whatever it was. Basically, what I'm talking about is that planning is proactive, absolutely. And I am such a planner. I love to plan. That was one of my values is consistency and committing. And I really think there's a value in being present as also being proactive. Because when you have that duality of being proactive and anticipating those things that might happen and trying to find out ways to mitigate it, definitely. Definitely. And also being able to adapt in the situation right now and being able to see the value in what is happening in the moment. What can I do with this downtime? Well, I can further my research in neuroscience. I can read more books. I can dedicate more time to reading about how to improve myself. I can dedicate the time to journaling a little bit longer than maybe I have been. And seeing how these activities right now can proactively enhance my career in the future. I'm reading books about like super communications by Charles Duhigg because I want to improve my communication skills. And that will help me in the future. And I'm proactively taking the steps to do that right now when I have that downtime. And so I think this is what it means by being present and seeing these opportunities that you can do right now to further your career in the future. And so applying the care framework is what's happening right now? What can you do? Assess. I can control my attention, not the timing on things. Respond. How am I adding value today? What can I do today? What actions can I take today to help me and align with what I'm doing? And embody that curious energy, embody that engagement and ability to be adaptable, which I talked about in my past episodes on how important it is to be adaptable. And I wanted to bring in this strategy hack that was talked about in a Working Hard podcast. I forget who it is, but I'll link it in the show notes below. It was about how to build your 2026 mindset. And it was just a beautiful thing that she talked about is we all have these to-do lists of what we want to do. Equally as important is we need to have the to-be lists, who we want to be when we achieve the to-dos. And I think this is in a sense being proactive. Because this imposter phenomenon that I've talked about in past episodes, it's really when you have shown that you have the capabilities to do something, that you have achieved something, but inherently you feel like you're not worthy of that achievement. And I think that's because you haven't created that sense of self and you haven't embodied who that person is when they achieve X, Y, and Z. And by having both of these to-do lists, such as completing those tasks, completing those applications, showing up to those meetings, and also having those to-bes. So I am a strategic person. I am resilient. I am communicative. I can be patient and wait for these things that are happening because I am so self assured that I deserve this. That when I get hired, I know that I'm going to feel so full because I already feel full right now. I already feel like I'm growing through this process. And I think this is really important. And how I show up to interviews and afterwards is that I'm not looking to always get the job. Like, obviously, I want the job. Obviously, that's the end goal. And also, I'm okay with just the process of things. I'm okay by learning about the interviews, looking at the interviews, seeing how the culture in the company is, progressing, definitely progressing and giving it my all, but also realizing if I don't get it, that's fine because I've been able to show up for an interview. I've gotten to that interview step or whatever it is. I've gotten to be able to see what the process was like, and I can use all of these skills in the next job that I apply for. What these questions are asking, what this interview is asking me, I can take that in and see how, because whenever I prepare, I am learning something. Whatever the interviewer asks me, that's another step in progression to my career because I'm preparing for my next interview, maybe, or I'm preparing to see how my relevant skills and experiences align with this company. And so I'm already embodying that person that is so self assured in the process of learning and growing. And always growth over output. I cannot stress that enough. And I think also something is that what can I do right now to fill my cup? Not in 6 months, not after the promotion, not after the job, but what can I do right now? So I just wanted to close out with being proactive is regaining that agency, regaining that ability to see what is in your control. What can you do to cause an effect? How are you causing the effect? How can you take action right now, show up consistently so that you can move forward instead of reacting on other people's responses, an environmental cue, whatever that stimulus is? You're not waiting for permission when you're being proactive. You're taking that action to gain it. And I also think it's prioritizing less on the hows. How are you going to get this? How are you going to succeed? And really focusing on just letting that letting that go and seeing what can you do right now and what can you leave behind. And so agency is really about choosing those inputs that are in your control and embodying them, being able to see and grow that sense of self so that you are already that person when that moment happens. It also, I think, helps to align your nervous system because you know that when that moment comes, you're ready for it. You feel ready for it because you have chosen to feel ready for it. You have taken the steps to do that. You have visualized what it's like to be that person, that when that moment comes, you feel like you've already been there. Like it's already here for you and you're not surprised. You're not kind of scattered when that moment comes because you're already so prepared for it and you feel like this is it. Like I'm ready. I feel ready. I am ready because I've chosen to be ready. I hope that makes sense. Sometimes I go on tangents and I feel like I make sense, but if I'm not, please let me know in the comments below. And so one thing that I want to leave you with is what is one thing this week that you'll choose to do instead of react to? How are you going to take action beyond the environmental cues? Are you going to switch up your routine? Are you going to do a coffee chat? Are you going to see the wins in the effort? What are you going to do this week to do that? Something that I want to do this week is learn a new skill. Something that I am going to do, and it's not a little skill to be honest, is I'm really going to start learning Chinese again. It is something that I wanted to do for a while now, and for some reason I just keep on not doing it. I think it's honestly because I'm scared that like I'm just not going to learn it and that it's hard and I have so many excuses for it, but I'm going to be proactive in the sense of really committing to doing a lesson or two a day. And I think I'm going to set a time limit for like 20 minutes. I'm going to consistently do it. I'm going to be proactive in it by setting it up in my schedule so that I have it planned and I can see it, time blocked it out. And this is being proactive because I don't have a result for this. Like nobody's forcing me to learn this language. Nobody's telling me that I need to learn this language. But for me, I feel like I want to learn it. I want to engage in it. It's something that I have learned throughout my childhood and high school and a little bit in university. That's where it's lacked a little bit. But for me, I'm going to take a proactive stance on it because I know that it will help me in the future. I also know that just being able to have another perspective on a culture is something that's so important to me because it can expose me to different things. And also just having respect for other people's cultures, I think is so important because it broadens your mindset towards what you already know and another country's view on the world. And how beautiful is that to see both of them and have a mindset that's more broad so that you can then, I don't know, just be a little bit more reflective in what your actions are. I could get into a lot of this, but I'm not going to bore you with why I want to learn Chinese. Obviously, it can also help in business. So yeah, that is one of the proactive things that I'm taking on this year is to learn a language. And so I wanted to go into a little bit of just highlight what's for next week's and the coming week's episodes. I think I'm going to do an interview series and an upskilling series because I think I want to take this mindset of what I've learned and these foundations that I've talked about in these episodes, such as letting go, being proactive, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, habit building, all of those things, and see how that can come into fruition in those high stake moments of your career, like interviews, conversations, decision making, without self sabotaging. So, the next few episodes are going to be an upskilling series, and it's going to start with interviews and how to prep for them. And yeah, and these are the things that I've just been learning. And also, because I feel like a lot of people have been reaching out to me on LinkedIn and just asking, how did you prepare for this? What are the interview questions? And I feel like by doing an episode, it can really help just clarify that a little bit more. And it can also help me for future interview too. So those are what the next few episodes are going to look like. And thank you so much for listening. Definitely comment, subscribe, do all those things so that I can keep making these episodes and I can keep on making topics that are relevant and resonate with you, because that's what this community is all about. And I really appreciate you coming back and listening. Any comments that I receive, I always respond to them and look at them, and they mean a lot to me. So thank you so much for supporting me. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Oh my gosh, what is that noise? I don't know what's going on outside. Coffee break time, though. I apologize for the noise outside, but I can't control that. And that is one of those things.